So, Monster Hunter Rise is awesome. I think that we all know that, right? The game has only been out for 5 days as of the time of the recording of this video, and it has literally taken the world by storm. Everyone is talking about it, everyone is loving it, it's a huge hit, and it's so great to see. But the thing that I want to focus on today when it comes to Monster Hunter Rise is the sales, because of course the sales always helps us know when something is an actual, true, bona fide hit, beyond just people maybe enjoying a game or a movie or some kind of product. How does it actually perform monetarily? And, I mean, to no one's surprise, Monster Hunter Rise has done an amazing job shipping 4 million units in just its first 3 days over its opening weekend. However, not only are the strong sales for the game a good sign for both Monster Hunter as a franchise and Capcom as the developer, but it also says a lot about what's happening with the Nintendo Switch currently and the overall Nintendo brand, and how really super strong it is. And that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. Of course, before we dive any deeper into the Monster Hunter and Switch topic, I do want to remind you guys that I am always trying to grow the channel here on Rule of Two Review. I upload several videos every single week, so as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing and what you hear, then hopefully you will consider subscribing to the channel. So like I said, there's been multiple reports out there, and I'm going to link one or two of them below for you guys to check up on, that have stated how incredibly strong these sales were. Like I said at the beginning here, 4 million units shipped of Monster Hunter Rise in the first weekend. And of course, that is shipped, not sold, okay? So shipped is different than how many copies were actually picked up and purchased by people. They paid their money to the store or to Amazon or whatever the case, and they took it home and played it. That's how many copies were sent from Capcom out to the world, out to retailers. It still is an indication of how popular something is and how many copies are pre-ordered, how fast they're selling, how many copies need to be sent out into the world for Capcom to have available to people. But it's not the same as hard sales numbers, and it's important that we note the difference. But it's also important to note that Monster Hunter World, the last Monster Hunter game, which released in 2018, and in my personal opinion, the best Monster Hunter game, that shipped 5 million units in its opening weekend. So we've got 5 million units for Monster Hunter World, 4 million for Monster Hunter Rise. And not only is 4 million just a really strong sales number for any title at any given day, the fact that this game is only available on one platform, whereas Monster Hunter World was available on two, really says a lot to how popular Monster Hunter Rise is. There's only a 1 million units difference between the shipped totals, 4 million compared to 5 million, but in that 1 million difference, it took 2 platforms to get to that high of a sales number. Whereas Rise, with just the Switch alone, hit 4 million. That is insane. I should also mention here really quickly, before I get too much deeper into the whole Switch sales thing, just how good I think the game is. I'm not going to spend too much time here. I'm not going to review the game. Maybe I make an impressions video in a couple of days. But I will say, as somebody who's been playing the Monster Hunter series since 2009 with Monster Hunter 3 Try on the Wii, and I've played every Monster Hunter game since up until Rise. Rise is fantastic. It's, to me, easily the second best Monster Hunter game ever made. I do think World is a better game overall, but Rise is a fantastic follow-up. They made so many quality of life improvements. It's very addictive and fun. It's beautiful on the Nintendo Switch. I'm going to put in 1 trillion hours into this, just like I did with World. I can't rave about it enough. It is so good, which to me makes sense when I see so many people enjoying it and how everyone is talking about it and so many people playing it for the first time. It's like, yes, finally people who haven't already loved Monster Hunter are starting to love it for the first time. Even coming off of Capcom's most successful video game release in history, Monster Hunter World, Rise is still making an impact, and that says so much about the quality of this game. Now, the real meat of this conversation that I want to focus on with you guys for a couple of minutes here in this video is the fact that this game is so popular and successful on the Nintendo Switch, where it is a third-party owned and developed game that is also exclusive to the Switch in a massively popular franchise, probably one of the top 10 most successful franchises in the industry. I am guessing there, to be fair, don't look it up like it's a fact, but I'm willing to bet it's in the top 10 because the games just sell so well, especially in Japan, traditionally. And so the fact that this game is doing so well on the Switch, to me, not only says how popular Monster Hunter is and how good it is, it shows the strength of the Switch and Nintendo's brand, you guys. It is a big deal that this game can release as an exclusive. Again, coming off of their most successful game with Monster Hunter World and do so crazy well on the Switch. In fact, I'm willing to wager a guess and say that there's a good chance if this game released only on the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 or Xbox One or Series X or even PC, any other one platform. Let's just pretend Monster Hunter Rise, instead of being exclusive to the Switch, was exclusive to either PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. I do still think it would have been a very big hit, but there's a really good chance that it wouldn't have sold as well as it is on the Nintendo Switch. And this is one of those scenarios where we can talk about the Switch effect. And I've brought it up to you guys so many times over the last few years in the Switch era, how the Switch works magic for game sales. There's been so many examples of games that on previous Nintendo platforms like the Wii U or even the mega successful Wii, where maybe some third-party games might not have sold and done as well, but the fact that they've released on the Switch, which everyone just loves to death because of the hybrid nature, people are more willing, at least from my experience and what I think we see a lot in the Switch era, people are more willing to go out of their way to buy almost every single title they can on the Switch. Now, I don't think the Switch is the greatest console in the world, and I don't even think it's Nintendo's best console. I like it a lot, but it's not the best. So I'm not talking about like, oh, the Switch is cool, so just because it's cool, it's a better console. It has nothing to do with that. I really just think that Nintendo hit a nerve in a positive way with what the Switch is, which is what's making games like this sell so well. And then we have Monster Hunter Rise come by and do even better than anyone could have hoped, even better than any prior third-party game. This is crazy. And I really think it's due to the popularity and overall interest in the Switch. And now, as much as this is, mostly a celebration of the fact that a great game came to Switch, third-party, exclusive, and is doing so very well, there's also another element that I want to touch on real quick here, and it's actually a bit of frustration that I have with the whole situation. Because to me, Monster Hunter Rise coming out and doing so well and turning so many heads and the whole world is paying attention and everyone and their mother is buying it, this also exposes the problem with so many other third-party companies and third-party titles that we see skipping the Nintendo Switch or releasing delayed on the Nintendo Switch. I'm looking at you, Doom Eternal, and so many other titles. The fact that all of these other companies haven't been able to see what most of us who are Nintendo or Switch fans have seen is crazy. Again, for how many years have I been talking to you guys about the fact that the Switch just makes games sell? And it is so crazy cool to see. And so why haven't we seen that with so many other games and titles? With the exception of indie games. I'm not really talking indie. I'm talking about more the AA and AAA and the big budget titles from so many other companies. Why are we not seeing a game like Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty on the Nintendo Switch? It is preposterous that they're not going out of their way to make a version of those games, a high-quality version, that can work and run on the Switch. We've seen that the Switch can do it. We've seen Doom and Doom Eternal, even though Doom Eternal got the delayed release, just like a Tony Hawk or a Crash Bandicoot 4. But we've seen the Doom games and what they can achieve on the Switch. We've seen the Wolfenstein games, Wolfenstein 2, and what it can do on the Switch. Heck, we even have a fantastic example in Mortal Kombat 11, which is a third-party game, very graphically intensive, that did release day and date on the Nintendo Switch, so good on you, Ed Boon, for that decision, and that actually did extremely well on the Switch as well. And so when you couple that with something like the Monster Hunter Rise sales situation, it's just, I don't want to beat this dead horse any more than I already am, but it just shows what I'm here to talk to you guys about. The fact that the Switch effect is real, games sell on the Switch, and so third-party developers need to start taking note. Companies like Activision Blizzard and Square and Rockstar and so many others, you guys need to stop missing out on the Switch. You need to stop not releasing your games on the Switch, and you need to stop delaying the Switch releases and making those come out 6 months to a year later. It makes no sense. Now, of course, it has to be noted that there will be the occasional game that just can't run on the Switch, because as much as we all love it, we all can acknowledge the fact here, which is the Switch isn't as powerful and capable as its direct competition, especially now that the PS5 and Series X are out. There's a huge power disparity, and it is unfortunate, even though I still love the Switch the way it is. And this is even evidenced by the fact that the Switch Pro conversation is so prevalent right now, and the rumors are out there, and most of us think that it's coming. It's probably because Nintendo and third-party companies are realizing you can't keep this 2017 hardware Nintendo Switch. You've got to give us something more. You've got to do more. And so yes, there are going to be those games like a Cyberpunk or maybe even a Resident Evil 2 remake that can't come to the Switch. But so many other titles can come to the Switch. Again, Tony Hawk is coming delayed to the Switch, just announced. Crash Bandicoot 4. I mean, these games can exist, and they can do well on the Switch if they're given a fair chance by releasing day and date alongside their competition. And this, again, if I bring this back to Monster Hunter Rise, it's just all to show that obviously the audience is there. People who game on the Switch are hungry for content like this. Capcom saw a need. They've also had a great relationship with Nintendo and, Nintendo consoles and the Monster Hunter franchise. So I think that also helped them make this decision. But I think they also knew that there was a great opportunity. They put in a ton of time and effort. They made an absolutely stellar Monster Hunter game. And now they are reaping the rewards justly. They deserve this success that they're seeing and the revenue that they're generating. This is what happens when you pay attention to the Nintendo console on the market and you feed the fans of that console high quality games, and you don't ignore people, and you actually say you're worth our time and effort and money to develop a good port of this game on the Nintendo console. And if you do that, we're all going to be here ready to buy it and throw our money at you. And so weirdly, this kind of ended up being feeling a little bit like a lecture I'm almost trying to give to you guys in the industry, and I don't really know why it turned out that way. I think I just got a little bit passionate about how frustrated I am that other companies aren't seeing what Capcom saw when they made this decision. And so maybe I was fueled a little bit by my frustration here, that it kind of turned into, like I said, something that feels like a lecture, like, don't you skip the Switch, don't you forget about Nintendo, they're gonna buy the games too, so put it on the Switch. It kind of came off that way, and it wasn't really what I intended to go for. Like I said, this is partly a celebration of the fact that the game rocks, and that the game is selling so well. And that it justifies how quality the Switch is, how capable it is, and the fact that these companies really should be paying attention, they're missing out on the money that Capcom is scooping up, that they're just not paying attention to, So either way, that's kind of how I see things. That's my breakdown of the current situation with Monster Hunter Rise and its awesome success, and the fact that so many people are playing it for the first time. That's a huge key factor here, you guys, is that this is the Switch effect. It's also convincing people to play Monster Hunter Rise for the first time. So many people who never liked Monster Hunter or never even played it said, well, now that there's a game coming to my Switch and I love and I support Nintendo because Nintendo fans are so diehard, I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. It's worth my $60 to pick up this Monster Hunter game, even though I've never cared about the series. Let's just do it because I like having games on my Switch. And now, everyone's learned that they're loving Monster Hunter. People who never thought they would enjoy it are now finding something to enjoy. Again, for the 15th time in this video, it's that Switch effect, yo. That sweet, sweet Switch effect. So, yeah, like I said, this is my breakdown in the way I see things. I'm loving Monster Hunter Rise. Are you loving Monster Hunter Rise? How do you see the Switch effect coming into play like I discussed here? And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob Overlift Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.